Well, it seems the mass media has officially given up on one Republican presidential candidate, Ron Paul, who has consistently attracted a very passionate and dedicated following, reportedly has had only one embedded reporter throughout the entire campaign. And now he apparently has none because MSNBC pulled the sole embed off the bus. This proves that for mainstream reporters, Ron Paul just isn't worth their time. Now, when you see video of Paul, he usually is swarmed with a very energized fan base, yet he hasn't won a single caucus yet. And this has the candidate raising suspicion.
Because sometimes we get thousands of people like this, and we'll take them to the polling booth, and we won't win the caucus. So, you know, a lot of our supporters are very suspicious about it. But the straw votes have been very confusing. I mean, you've probably read in the paper about what happened up in Maine. I mean, there's just a lot of confusion. They said, well, let's have a recount. They said, well, we can't have a recount. They just write these numbers down on pieces of paper, and we throw them away afterwards. So it's that kind of stuff that makes you suspicious.
So is there an effort to silence Paul, and is the candidate not getting a fair shot in the race to be the next Republican presidential candidate? Well, to dig deeper into what's really going on here, I'm joined now by Mary Willison, volunteer organizer for the Los Angeles Liberty headquarters and Ron Paul supporter from our LA studios. Welcome to the show, Mary. So would you say that the media is actively biased against Ron Paul?
Completely. They're doing absolutely everything in their power to give less coverage and make him seem unelectable. The media is the one who started the whole rumor of unelectability. And actually, Ron Paul is highly electable, and that's why they're not covering him. He's drawing crowds of, 3,000 to 5,000 on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times daily. He'll have a conference in one place and then, fly over to another. And yesterday spoke to a crowd of more than 5,000 in Illinois and took them to the polls right afterward. And the media can't cover those sort of things because, they are the kind of government-sponsored organizations that get taxpayer bailouts. GE, the parent company of the CNBC, got over $182.5 billion in taxpayer bailouts. And, Ron Paul does not support bailouts, and that's why.
Now, I kind of want to pull up an example of this. This was a poll that was on CNN where Ron Paul, he was ranked the highest in this poll at 52%. So significantly higher than some of the other candidates there. Yet, if you see, he's all the way on the bottom there. So that just doesn't really seem to make much sense off the bat. What do you make of that, and when else would this ever happen?
Yeah, only when Ron Paul wins would the winner be listed at the bottom of the page. And we saw much worse than that, much more blatant attempts. In almost all of the debates, we would have a debate watching party, and you would see that the way that the camera was framed, they would put the other three candidates in the, together and put Ron Paul off to the edge, and the camera would frame on just the three candidates as if Ron Paul wasn't even in the room on the same stage. And in one debate, he only had 89 seconds to speak, and in another one, I think it was an hour and a half debate, and they cut off the second half hour where Ron Paul had the opportunity to speak. So.
And here's somebody that is trying to shine light on this, none other than Jon Stewart. Let's take a listen.
A new Gallup survey showing Rick Perry running second to Mitt Romney, knocking down Iowa favorite Michelle Bachmann to fourth.
Behind who? Fourth behind who? How did Libertarian Ron Paul become the 13th floor in a hotel?
So, Mary, why would there be this effort to silence him? Why? What is the motive behind ignoring him?
Exactly as I mentioned, Ron Paul, he's not the establishment candidate. He does not represent the things that that benefit these big corporate government-sponsored organizations and the corporatocracy. Ron Paul is, the exact opposite. He's the patriot for the people, and that's why they don't give him any coverage, because he actually can win. They like to misreport on his delegate wins. They like to misreport on his caucus wins and the size of them. So, nobody gave him any credit for winning the caucus in the Virgin Islands. And that's just insane. So if they want to call Mitt Romney the winner for winning 8 delegates in the Virgin Islands, then I guess that we can call Ron Paul the winner in Maine, Nevada, Colorado, where he took all the delegates,
now,
the majority.
Earlier, we played a clip there of Ron Paul. He was raising suspicion of election fraud, and he pointed to the fact where wherever he goes, he is surrounded by so many of these very vocal, passionate people, and you don't see this kind of following for the other candidates. Yet at the same time, he hasn't won any caucuses, and to him and to many of his followers, something doesn't add up. Do you think that there is fraud going on?
I think that the establishment GOP has been told which candidate and has a candidate that in mind, and they're pushing forward for those candidates. Mitt Romney is the establishment choice, and doing whatever they can to steal away Ron Paul's momentum. If they had declared him the winner in the U.S. Virgin Islands, as he was, rightfully so, then that would just help to propel him into the next states and keep things going for Super Tuesday. But they did not want to give him that win. And, by doing that, it kind of quelches his momentum. And, supporters sometimes fear, throwing a vote away. If some people are very loyal to the Republican Party, and they fear that, I'm not sure why, that if they gave it to the other candidate, but in most cases, or as I feel it, they would be throwing their vote away if they gave it to the lesser of two evils rather than to the one candidate who's actually standing up for them.
Now, in terms of election fraud, Mary, do you think that could indeed be going on?
I think it's a possibility, and a lot of the Ron Paul supporters who've showing up to the caucuses to participate and to become delegates have been turned away. There's been a lot of rumors about it. I'm not on the ground, and I'm not with the official campaign. I'm a grassroots supporter, but there is definitely a lot of information that comes out of some of these, and we've informed the voters to participate in the caucuses and to be a part of the public tally, that people can call for a public tally of the vote. And when they've done that, I think it was in Iowa, they reported that they had counted out the public votes, and then it was those results were not even turned in by the GOP. In Maine, where 84% of the vote was counted, and several precincts and counties were not counted, their votes, and they claimed Mitt Romney as the winner with only, I think, 117 votes apart from Ron Paul. So
now, whether it's an accident or
in other precincts.
Whether it's an accident or if it was intentional, it is raising some suspicion among Ron Paul followers. I do want to pull up a quote from an editorial. This is in the Daily Bell. It says, quote, it is time for a groundswell of Ron Paul supporters to quietly, respectfully, but firmly make their position clear to the mainstream media and the GOP establishment. Simply put, no Paul on the ticket means no vote for the GOP in November. Now, Mary, do you think that that's what needs to be done in order for him to be taken seriously, for some of his followers to put their foot down and say, hey, we can impact the outcome of this election?
I don't know how to answer that question. I'm unsure of how a third-party ticket would run. I think I don't think that people don't want. That's a tough question. I think that Ron Paul is on the Republican ticket because there's finances there to run up against Obama. I think that people would be doing themselves an incredible disservice if they don't vote for Ron Paul, because in my opinion, the other candidates have no chance of winning this race against Barack Obama, because these other candidates support everything that Barack Obama has done wrong since he's been in there, as far as bailouts are concerned, increasing the debt ceiling, preemptive
all right, Mary,
wars and things like that.
We're running out of time, but thank you very much. A pleasure to have you on the show, as always. That was Mary Willison, volunteer organizer for the Los Angeles Liberty headquarters and a Ron Paul supporter.